often things fell apart, and there were times when I thought I was done. That was it. I'd ruined everything. And I realise now that those moments built my resilience, because those things just didn't work. But there were other ways around them that would have worked better, or that do work better. One thing that I learned fairly early on is that relying on other people was not going to be the way for me. I needed to take control. I needed to be in control of things.
How do you mean, Toby? Do you mean interpreters, or do you mean line managers or direct reports? When you say not relying, who is it you mean?
I think not relying on companies to know how to work things out for me. Let me give you an example that comes to mind. So there was an example where I was told there was a hugely important meeting next week, a steering committee where decisions had to be made on this day. There were lots of people who were going to be in the room at the same time. And, I was ambitious. I wanted to be at the table with everybody else. At no point did I say, oh, I'm not sure that's going to be possible for me. So I said, absolutely, I will be there. And then I needed to find interpreters. I didn't have an interpreter book for that day, and I looked far and wide. And on that particular day, I couldn't find an interpreter. The day before, the evening before, I searched far and wide. Really close to the date, I found a couple of interpreters. I booked them, I confirmed them, I sent them the hours, I told them the meeting was really important, I briefed them, I prepped them, I sent them documentation, I walked them through it, I explained what I wanted to achieve from the meeting, I made sure they both knew exactly what the meeting was all about and how important it was. The night before the meeting happened, one of the organisers sent out an email saying, oh, actually, someone's ill, we'll do the meeting another time. And I thought, it impacted my confidence so much. I had put so much effort, blood, sweat and tears into searching, finding interpreters. And then the meeting was just moved, just like that. And I realised that, I couldn't blame them for doing that, because I knew how much work I had put into that. And I think what I learned from that was that I spoke to people about that and said, if it's a really important meeting, that's great. And I absolutely want to be there. I will make sure I find the absolute best interpreters. I will find when they're available and I will book them. And then you will know that I have got the interpreters booked. If they're important meetings, I'm here, I'm ready to come. I want really good interpreters. So we align everything, make sure the interpreters are booked. And then I leave it to the organisers to brief the interpreters. And if they move the meeting, then they would rearrange the interpreters. That no longer becomes, my sweat that goes into that and my effort, because actually it's their responsibility to find those interpreters and have them available at the right time. So I feel like I just have been able to take much more control of that sort of organisation of things. One of the hurdles that I saw that I thought was particularly relevant and something that I would really hold quite closely in my mind was about, not blaming other people for the things that went wrong or the mistakes that were made or the lack of confidence. And it's so easy to do that and very tempting to, because life can be frustrating. It can be incredibly annoying to be a person with a disability or with deafness who is struggling their way through. And I remember when I was my younger self, I was 25, hugely ambitious, wanted a great job, wanted to be in that really professional working environment. I was in a new product team, very innovative, creating new products all of the time. They were working on the Knorr Stock Cube. So it was a new product to market that was going to go out to supermarkets. I was really excited. It was a team that was hugely creative, full of a buzz of creativity. And I needed to create a business case for that newly innovated product. So I needed to work on a business case as to how we were going to release that product to market. So I'd worked with the team, and the only thing left to do was to present to the board for them to sign the business case off, and then the product would be released into the market. Everything else was in place. I was well prepared. I was really confident that everything was exactly where it should be. I booked interpreters. My favourite regular interpreters weren't available, so I found 2 interpreters I didn't know so well. I stood up at the front of the room full of confidence. I can do this. My presentation is amazing. I knew my business case inside out. I was hugely passionate about it. I stood up and I started to sign. And 5 minutes later, I looked around the room and there were furrowed brows. The board didn't look convinced. I looked at the interpreters and they were obviously struggling. They were struggling to voice over. They were veering off track. What they were saying wasn't really relevant to what I was saying. They were just struggling so much to understand what I was signing. And then, my business case looked like a loser. I mean, it just didn't look good at all. And my confidence was impacted so terribly. I wished I could fall down a hole and not come back out again. And I thought, I can't work in a place like this. There's barriers everywhere. It's such hard work. The interpreter did a terrible job. The board didn't understand me. And I could have blamed everybody. Everybody else in the room I could have blamed. I was so frustrated and I was so cross. I had failed. I was so hard on myself. It was such a failure. I went home and I procrastinated. I thought about it and I thought about it. And then I thought about it and thought, why am I blaming everybody else? Why was I so reliant on everybody else in that room? This is something I need to take responsibility for myself. So the next day, I sent a message and said, I realised that didn't go well. Can we do it again? I said to the board, because I'm absolutely confident I have the business case exactly where I should be. I said, can I give you a date? So I'm going to check when my interpreters are available, interpreters who understand me, who work well with me, and we will book the meeting again. So the meeting was set up. I stood up at the front of the room and it was like music to their ears. It was a totally different story. It landed beautifully. The board were excited. They saw how attractive the project was and they said, yes, let's go. They knew it was going to be a success. And it was just such a different situation. And it changed my attitude so much. I could have blamed the interpreters or I could have blamed the board, but there was really no point in doing so. I needed to take control of my own destiny. And I think that was a real learning that I took and really gave me confidence to take control of situations.
Oh, wow.